Cup and the league all to be won. Everyone knows there's a job to be done, and with a team so fine, I'm proud they're mine. We'll be singing this song. For real bars of family athletic, and now we are on song. For real bars of family athletic, and we'll go marching on.
The Dunfermline Athletic Former Players Association podcast is sponsored by Starnut Apparel. Affordable and stylish clothing born on the terraces. Just head to www.starnutapparel.co.uk.
Welcome to Walking Down the Holbeath Road, the podcast where we take a nostalgic stroll through the rich history of Dunfermline Athletic Football Club. I'm your host Mikey Motkiewicz, and in each episode we'll be deep diving into the heart and soul of the Pars, celebrating the legends who have graced the pitch at East End Park. Here we connect with former players, managers and coaches, reliving their memorable moments, personal triumphs and the challenges they faced during their careers in the game. From stunning victories and cup runs to the behind-the-scenes stories, we'll be bringing you exclusive interviews with the people who have lived and breathed Dunfermline Athletic Football Club. In this latest episode, we speak to former defender Colin Miller, who joined the club from Hearts in 1995. His time at the club between 95 and 98 included achieving promotion to the Premier League in 96, a 5th place finish in their debut season back in the top league, and 2 League Cup semi-finals. We chat all about his time at East End Park, playing international football for Canada, and his passion for coaching, and of course his love of the mighty DAFC. So sit back and enjoy this one with Colin Miller.
Book of a goal glitz when you put the East of Scotland League against the Premier Division. Those expectations were well and truly realised by Dunfermline today. Colin Miller grabbing the first of 7 here after only 3 minutes.
I guess first of all, it's a pleasure to be here, Mikey, and a privilege to be on the podcast. I'm delighted to see some pretty good names on the list that you've interviewed. So I'm over the moon to be asked to be on the show. Basically, I was born and raised in Allenton, which is a little mining village just outside of Shotts and New Mains sort of area, Wishaw area. And my family grew up in that little village till we were about 10, or till I was about 10, 11 years of age, and we immigrated from Allenton to Vancouver in 1975. We had my mum and dad and an older brother, Dal, and 2 younger sisters, Tracy and Sharon. So it was a gathering of the clan, and we moved out originally we flew into Vancouver, and my dad, who was a coal miner all of his days, my grandfather was a coal miner, we came out as a family, and we're flying to a place called Prince George, which is probably an hour's flight north of Vancouver. And unfortunately things didn't work out in Prince George. So you can imagine a bit of turmoil for the family when we first came out. We moved back down to Vancouver, where we really settled, and the family grew up there, if you like. Played my football for a club that had a lot of really good Canadian international players had come through this grassroots program that was called Grandview Legion. Played in blue and white stripes. Eventually I got to the black and white stripes for the Pars, but we started away in the blue and white stripes. But playing alongside some good kids, and because my brother and I were really keen football people, and we grew up at a real big Rangers supporting family, if you like, Mikey, it was always football every day. So even in Scotland, we played for Allenton Primary School. So we were a wee bit advanced, if you like, when with the average Canadian player, and we got noticed, and we started to get playing for the select teams and get a wee bit more profile. The Scottish guy, obviously my dad had that thick Scottish accent, so it kind of stood out a wee bit, I should say, with the with the average Canadian, the people standing watching the games, they were generally very quiet, but my old man let everybody know that he was there watching us. So he was one of those types of dads on the sidelines. But it was great. I'd played with some really good young players. Eventually played for, as you probably know, Canada is broken into provinces. So I played for the BC provincial program, the British Columbia provincial programs, and I got selected for the under-16 when I was 14. So I was a wee bit advanced, if you like, Mikey, and the same thing with the under-18s. And during that whole process, we took out our Canadian citizenship in 1982, which then enabled me through a lot of football had gone into that whole development, which then enabled me to play for the Canadian youth team. And I was the captain of the Canadian youth team at that very early age as well. So it was always in my blood to be a footballer. And then what happened, and I then played in the old North American Soccer League, and I played with an ex-Pars player called Jimmy Nicholl, as I'm sure you're well aware. We actually signed Jimmy from Rangers at the time in Toronto, but I was drafted by the Toronto Blizzard. So I was sitting in my high school class in Vancouver, and I found out that I'd been drafted by Toronto through the PA system. The school principal announced it through the school. So that's how I found out. There was a few clubs that were interested, the Vancouver Whitecaps. There was Tampa Bay Rowdies and a team in Edmonton that wanted to sign me. But thankfully I went to Toronto, which was a wonderful opportunity for me because there was an English guy called Bob Houghton who was the manager of Toronto. Bob was the manager of Malmo when they played against Nottingham Forest many, many years ago in one of the European Cup finals. And Bob was well versed on what was going on. He gave, at that time, I actually became the youngest player to play in the North American Soccer League, and had the privilege of playing against Franz Beckenbauer, Johan Neeskens, and players like. And I was surrounded by terrific internationals, some Swedish internationals, Scottish internationals, so on and so forth. And it was an incredible learning environment for me. And Bob Houghton asked me, he said, "Who would your local football team be to where you grew up in Scotland?" Because he wanted me to come back to do a pre-season, if you like. So I told him, well, Motherwell would have been the closest area, but at least I could get the bus down to Motherwell. So what happened was I came back. He said, well, who's the manager of Motherwell? And I said it was Jock Wallace at that time, along with Frank Connor. They were at Motherwell.
A formidable too, those guys, eh?
Yes, absolutely. It was what the polar opposites, from one being blue and one being green, but they were they were terrific. The energy and enthusiasm that they both gave. So I came back for a month's pre-season, Mikey, at Motherwell. Gary McAllister was there. Brian McClare was at the club at the time. And they were doing very well, actually. I think Brian was the top scorer in the Premier League at the time. And mind you, I don't think it was called the Premier League at that time. It might have been the First Division. We're going back a few years now. But anyways, I came back and I spent a month with Motherwell, and Big Jock took to me right away. I played a few reserve games and did very well for him. And he said, "Listen, wee man," he says, "I'm going to ask you a question." He says, "How do you feel when you play Celtic, or when you hear Celtic?" I said, "Well, I'm like a bull when it sees red," to be honest with you. But right away, it was a good click for me and Big Jock. And he said, "Listen," he said, "I want you to rip up your contract in Toronto." He said, "Motherwell play Celtic at Fir Park on Saturday." He said, "And you'll be my left back, or if you stay." And I'm maybe 17, 18 at the time, Mikey. And I said, "No, there's no chance I could do such a thing. I couldn't. I've got a contract with Toronto." So we kept in touch, Jock and I, and the gaffer and I kept in touch with each other. And he said we actually played Rangers in a friendly, Toronto Blizzard, in Hamilton, Ontario, and there was about 17,000 at the game at a stadium called Ivor Wind Stadium, and there must have been 15,000 Rangers supporters there. I believe the biggest Rangers supporters club in the world is in Toronto. So but Big Jock spoke to me after the game, and he said, I want you to come back to Rangers when when this league folds, because the NASL at the time was struggling, and we knew it was kind of inevitable what was going to happen. So lo and behold, I got the opportunity, the privilege to come back to Rangers in the summer of 1985, and that's really where things started in the UK for me. But it was a lot of work, a lot of hard work to get to that level, and then from then on, I became, as I spoke earlier about, a youth team captain with the national team with Canada, and then I actually made my first A cap for Canada, and it was playing against Toronto. Against Scotland.
Scotland, yeah,
Yes,
yeah, indeed.
So that was terrific. So that just gives you a wee background of what my introduction, if you like, and my progress through youth and the grassroots side of the game. Most of my grassroots football was played in Vancouver. The coaches that worked with me deserve a lot of credit, because they were really, really good with me, and I had a terrific attitude. That was one of my strongest points, I would have said, Mikey, at that time.
Tremendous stuff. We'll touch on Rangers in just a minute. I'm guessing, going back to the Canada move, was that through your parents' work? Because such a big move at that time to just emigrate and up sticks, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was massive, Mikey, to be honest with you. My dad, as I say, was a coal miner, straight out of school. My grandfather, the same thing. But my mum really wanted to move. My dad's sister, Wilma, lived in Canada, and at that time you could sponsor people. There wasn't this whole process of points and all that sort of stuff, Mikey. It was basically, if you had someone in Canada that would sponsor you and verify for you, you'd be allowed. There was a wee bit of a process. Obviously, there's a medical that my dad failed a couple of times, to be honest with you. He was a very heavy smoker, and working down the coal mines, his lung capacity wasn't great. So he stopped smoking, stopped drinking, stopped doing that. He could still down the coal mine, obviously, but he managed to pass the test. And I think it was a couple of months after that the family moved lock, stock and barrel out to Vancouver. But it wasn't. My mum worked at Hartwood Mental Hospital in Lanarkshire, and it was normally what the girls did at that time. They came out of school and they went into nursing and did that. So my mum did that, and my dad, as I said, was doing what he was doing. So we didn't come back to Canada for jobs or anything like that. My dad was, as I said earlier, was going to work in a pulp mill in Prince George, and that went under the day that we landed. So that set the cat amongst the pigeons, as you could imagine. But he worked the rest of his days. When we moved down to Vancouver, my dad, he worked in a steel mill, and my mum worked at Vancouver General Hospital in the cancer ward there. It took a wee while for her to get the job, but she pestered the hospital enough to give her a chance, as you do in those times. And that's exactly what happened, Mickey. So it was a big move. It was an incredible move. I still remember hearing my mum crying, Joe, we need to go back to Scotland. But they stuck it out, and it was a great thing for us, because the opportunities that all of our family have had is because of this terrific country that we live in now.
Brilliant. Did you, growing up, think, I'm Canadian now, or did you always think, nah, I'm Scottish? Obviously, you went on to play for Canada, which we'll touch on later. So
yeah, no, you never took it out of us. The Scots. In fact, the first day in Prince George, it was the middle of winter, Mikey, and the snow is. They get incredible winters up in Prince George, very, very high up north. So there was this loudmouthed lad who thought, well, who's this guy that's coming? My brother and I went to school first day, and he was a bit of a big mouth and, funny accent that I had. And of course, people were looking at both Dal and I. We couldn't play football because the snow was that deep. So I said to him, okay, big mouth, you and I out the back of the school after school was finished, and I managed to knock 7 bells out of the lad. There was blood all over the snow, and got called in. My mum and dad got called into the school to see the principal, and he says, what's going on here? The kid's first day at school and he's fighting out the back. But I had to do it. I stood up for being Scottish and the accent, and I wasn't going to let anybody take the better of me even at that time. And I did the same thing down in Vancouver, believe it or not. Got into a fight the first day at school because of the accent. There weren't a lot of Scottish kids going about, as you can imagine, 1975. It took us a wee while to settle, to be honest with you. But when we moved down to Vancouver, it felt much more like home, I have to say. And getting my brother and I into the football right away, Mikey, was really important. That we made new friends. My mum and dad met some football parents, if you like, and that really helped us settle. And it was great. The girls took a wee while longer. My sisters, they were a wee bit younger, but it certainly helped the family. The fact that we were involved in a really good football club.
Superb, mate. So let's touch on Rangers, 1985. Obviously,
Yes.
you've mentioned the family are big Rangers fans, including yourself. What was that like to sign for Glasgow Rangers?
Oh, you could only imagine. I mean, you grow up every Christmas we got a new Rangers strip and you get a new Rangers ball and all that. And there was primarily Rangers supporters in Allenton at that time. There was one Celtic set of supporters that family, but great. They were my dad and Tommy were best of pals. We're best of pals. Every Old Firm game, they'd have a bet, and whoever lost it had to buy the first round. But it was great. But all the boys, we were just football daft. Everybody we played, but everybody got a new ball at Christmas, as you know, in those days, Mikey. And you say, okay, Christmas, as soon as we get the breakfast done, the presents will open down. We called it the square, this little area where we played. And everybody brought their ball, but nobody wanted to use it because it was all cement.
Brand new ball.
Brand new ball. Nobody wanted to kick it. So, but it was great. It was my whole family, as I said, were Rangers. Although my grandfather was a Motherwell supporter on my dad's side, and it was such a privilege to come back and knowing that I didn't knowing what the background of the club and what it meant to so many supporters, Mikey, and all of a sudden I've got a chance now. What happened? I did the full pre-season, first pre-season there with Jock, and Alec Totten was the assistant manager. And I played in all the games, the closed door games, inter-squad games. I played at left back. And we went up north. I think we were going to play Cali Thistle or something like that as the first pre-season game. And I'm having an afternoon nap, as you could imagine. I'm a bag of nerves, 20 years of age, and I'm going to play for Rangers, my first game. And it was Big Jock knocked on the door. He says, "Sorry, wee man, you can't play tonight." And I went, "What?" And he said, "No," he says, "something called international clearance." So I'd been given release forms by Toronto, but it had to be approved by the Canadian FA, and it had to be approved by the Scottish FA. So that whole process, Mikey, at that time took 7 or 8 weeks. So I couldn't play in any official reserve games. I certainly couldn't play in any first team games. So I was behind the 8 ball right away, but I was going to play in the first team. I was starting that night at left back. And before you knew it, I was well down the pecking order. Stuart Monroe, Ali Dawson were well ahead of me, and I was always playing catch up. So I only ever played 7 first team games for Rangers. But I played in the reserves. We won the reserve league that year. Won the Glasgow Cup as well. But it was just a privilege. It was we had to wear collar and tie arriving at Ibrox, clean shaven, but to be just the standards that the Big Jock had set and the club had set. And I was very fortunate, very grateful. Still friends with the group chat. I'm in a WhatsApp group chat with the Rangers players in the 80s, McCoist and all of them, and keep in touch with them on a regular basis. In fact, it's Sandy Clark's birthday today, so just sent the big man a happy birthday message on the group chat. So yeah, it was great. But what a learning curve it was for me, and it was. Yeah, there was never a chore to playing for Rangers, that's for sure.
Of course. One question I wanted to ask, there's a very famous picture from that era, and it's got a certain famous chef in it, and you're in that team photo. So what was Gordon Ramsay like as a player?
Gordon, I thought the world of Gordon. He'll probably never remember me, but what you saw on the telly, what you see on the telly with his cooking programs, Gordon wasn't like that. Gordon was the nicest lad in the world, but he's obviously been so successful in his career. In fact, I listened to an elite podcast the other day, and it was Gordon that they were interviewing. It tells his story about the difficulties, but the standards that he set and wanted to set all the way through. But he was very professional, very unlucky with the injury, of course, that set him back. But yeah, a lot of people ask that question, what was that like? And I think it was it might have been the Musselburgh Sevens or something, whatever it was, Mikey. It was a tournament that Rangers played. It was a full size pitch, 7-a-side at that time. I think Coisty was one of the coaches that night as well. And we won the tournament, and Gordon was a big part of that team. Some great lads in that photograph. But it's actually in his book as well, I believe, that photograph.
It is indeed, yeah. Yeah, a few ex-pars in there as well. There's yourself, Derek Ferguson, Eric Ferguson was there as well.
Yeah.
So quite a few links there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So after Rangers, mate, you had a wee spell at Doncaster down south, spell back up the road, Hamilton, St Johnstone, then at Hearts. Now let's get on to the good stuff.
Yeah.
4th of November 95, you get the opportunity to come to Dunfermline Athletic. So how did all that come about? What's your memories?
Well, yeah, great stuff, Mikey. I had the privilege. I was so fortunate to play in my career. I was one of these grateful football players who just loved what he did for a living, and I had the privilege of playing for Hamilton, over 200 games for the club. St Johnstone, I was there for a brief spell, and then was player swapped to the Jambos with Jim Weir going from Hearts to St Johnstone. And then I played just over a season, I think, with the Jambos with Tommy McLean as the manager. And then Tommy got sacked and Jim Jeffries took over. And I don't think I was in Jim's plans very much, which is every manager has their things. But I was gutted to leave the Jambos. I really enjoyed my time at Hearts. It was some great players at the club, and it was just a fabulous club. But during that whole process, Mikey, I was taking my coaching licenses down at Largs. So I was really into the coaching, and I enjoyed my time. So I got to meet Dick Campbell, and Dick was, well, he's larger than life, isn't he, Dick? He's magnificent. He was really, really good with me and good for me at the time. Helped me with my licenses, and when I got called into the Jim Jeffries office, and he said, "Listen, wee man," he says, "there's a player at Dunfermline that we're interested in. Dunfermline are interested in you. Would you be willing to have a chat?" And I knew I was on the way out, Mikey. I'm one of these players. I didn't want to just pick a wage up and say I was a professional player. I wanted to play. And when I heard it was the Pars, I was absolutely thrilled to bits. So Jackie McNamara was the right back at the time. He went to Celtic. In fact, Toss McKinley went from Hearts to Celtic, and then I went from St Johnstone to replace Tosh. And how in the world are you meant to replace that calibre of player? Both were fabulous football players, great fullbacks, and all of a sudden you get the wee dumpy guy coming in trying to. I certainly wasn't a Jackie McNamara, that's for sure. But the opportunity to come and speak to the gaffer and Dick Campbell, both Bert and Dick, it was great. And right from the start, you could feel the warmth of the club. I knew the gaffer wanted me to be there. I was speaking with both him and Dick, and they knew my background. They knew the standards. Dick just knew all about what I was like as a person, as a professional. And the team at that time was full of really, really good professionals. I knew it was coming into a side that was right in the mix for getting promotion. And lo and behold, what an experience it was. I loved my time at Dunfermline. I really, really was thrilled to bits to play for the club. I have goosebumps talking about it now, to be honest with you. But the support that we had, and it just got better and better that season, Mikey. But that's how it came about. It actually was through doing my coaching licenses down at Largs and getting to know Dick quite well. He saw what I was like, because you're playing 11-a-side games all the time with all the other candidates that are taking their licenses. So he got to see me. There was I forget the command manager at the time as well. He was, I can't remember his name. But
Alex Totten at the time.
Jim Fleeting, yeah. And Jim said, if I knew you were like this, I would have signed you at Kilmarnock long ago. But maybe I played some of my best football down at Largs for doing my licenses. But it was great, and that's how it came about. And I was, as I said, I was gutted to leave the Jambos, but I was so excited to come to Dunfermline, because I knew the club, I knew the background of the club, the support, the potential that the club had. but I also knew a few of the players because having played in so long in Scotland, I knew some of the lads, and I thought, wow, I'd love to be a part of that. So that's basically what happened.
Superb. It's funny you say about the Dick Campbell Largs connection, because there's so many guys from your era that I've spoken to, and they all signed for Dunfermline through that link. A lot of them was through Dick Campbell at the time.
Yeah, it's true because it was a great environment. I mean, the Scottish FA at times took a bit of stick in the media, whatever, for being the Largs Mafia, being all that. But I'll tell you what, I thought the coaching staff that were down there were first class, absolutely first class. And it was Craig Brown and Andy Roxburgh were leading things at that time, and Craig was magnificent for me. The privilege to work with Billy Davis, the best I've worked on the grass down at Derby County. Billy brought me back as first team coach, assistant first team coach in the Premier League when he was there, and it was great. But the contacts that you made, Mikey, at Largs, it was just great. There were lads that you played against that you didn't really know, but all of a sudden you're spending time, and the candidates were all trying to help each other out. It was just such a positive environment. The social side of it at night as well was great. But the SFA staff were first class. Willie McLean, Dick Campbell, all of the lads. Alex Smith was my assessor in my final assessment. Dick, I had him as one of my assessors also, so spent a lot of time with them. So it's how you got to know people. And it was a really, really strong, powerful environment with terrific leaders in there.
Learning from the best at the time, without doubt.
Yes.
So let's focus on that first season. Then you join in November. It's an iconic season in the club's history. But very quickly after you joined, come January, the captain, Norrie McCarthy, passes away. So what's your memories around when Norrie went, and obviously how difficult that was for everyone?
Well, yeah, it's been well documented. I listened to Big Andy Smith's podcast with you as well, and I thought he summed it up really well, how difficult it was and how it brought. Craig Robertson was excellent during that time, Mikey. I was actually in Mexico, believe it or not, playing for Canada in the World Cup qualifiers when the big man passed away. So maybe I was one of the lucky ones, and I say that with the greatest respect and kindness there, because I was out of it. But well aware of what was going on. The gaffer kept me in touch. I spoke to him, and I wish to all the lads the very best of luck. But I was away I missed the funeral. I missed all of that stuff because I was away with the national team at the time. But totally devastated. I worked with Norrie for a relatively short period of time, as you could imagine, before his passing. But he was class. Just a larger than life guy, a successful businessman in Dunfermline as well. He's just one of those people, Mikey, for me, that got it, if that makes sense. He's just a good guy that got it. There was no airs or graces. He just was just a genuine leader. I would have said he was more a quiet leader. He wasn't a barker and a screamer. He let you know if things weren't going well, but he wasn't that a shouter and a screamer. Same thing with Craig Robertson. When Craig took over as the captain, he led by example. But devastating for the club because his legacy lives on, and it was such a tragic, not just for Dunfermline, but for Scottish football, because he was so well known within Scottish football. He was just a genuine leader and genuine good person. So it was a very, very sad time for the club. But for me, it galvanised the players that were there. It certainly galvanised the staff. Everybody now realised, hey, we've got something really worth fighting for this season. So in a horrendous way, it really pulled us together.
Yeah, definitely. The whole town came together. What was that like then? You returned from international duty. The dynamics of the changing room, was there just a fighting spirit to say, let's now try and get this title for him?
Yeah, there generally was, and it's easy to say, yeah, be light and fluffy and say, oh, it was a great atmosphere, but it was, Mikey. We had the 5 lads from the west, daft as a brush every drive through. We laughed. Harry Curran, what a character. Jerry Britton was there as well. We had Alan Moore, who's a club legend in his own mind as well. We Moore, but
yeah,
he was great. And Big Smudger, Big Andy Smith, who was a fantastic friend and a great teammate. They were all great guys, and they helped it. They dealt the lads from the west. They come in and And Wee Murray is just larger than life as well. He was terrific, but there was good professionals in there, really good professionals, good guys. I look at Hamish French as an example. Frenchie was the first one into training, the last one to leave. He was just a great ambassador for the club as well. Frenchie, he trained well. He came from Dundee United, had a terrific career there, and so his experience was excellent. Big Westie, Ivo Den Beeman, guys like that. It was great. It was just the team was full of really good players. Stu Petrie, I had the privilege of playing in behind Stuarty for a long spell as a left back, and I just used to win the ball and give it to Stuarty, and he would do his thing. At the start, I played right back, and I'd win the ball and give the ball to Wee Murray, and so I was surrounded by really good wingers at that time, and I just had to do the job, just win the football. I wasn't a Jackie McNamara, I wasn't a marauding fullback by any stretch of the imagination, but I did my job, and I did it hopefully in a good way, because I didn't miss many games other than the international breaks. I was very consistent in the first team, so I must have done something well for the gaffer and Dick.
100%, mate. You made 24 appearances that debut season. What I was going to go back to, you're talking about Petey on one side, Moore on the other, Big Andy Smith up front. It's just, see, from looking back and reflection, you went into games as a fan just knowing we were going to get goals.
Yeah.
Just the way we used to play was just attack-minded, exciting football, wasn't it?
And I've got to say, I've got to pay the gaffer and Dick a big compliment here, because never at any point did they just say, let's rattle it up the park, let's smash it up the park and hope for the best. We every day in training, the lads played football. It was such a great option having a big target man like Smudger up front, because he fought his corner. He was just a big, honest. I think he eventually got a Scottish cap as well, under 21 level, if I'm not mistaken.
And something like
that.
Cap. Yeah.
B caps, Mike. Yes. So that showed you how well he was doing in the Scottish Premier League. But we were a genuine threat. We had some big lads. I thought Andy Todd was a joy to play beside, an absolute joy. But I thought Toddy could have gone on to a different level, to be honest with you. He was so consistent, quick, played to his strengths, didn't overplay, did a really, really good job, and I really had a good chemistry with the back four at that time, and Big Toddy did well. We were always a threat from set plays. Teams were terrified, Mikey, because we had some big units, and the delivery from Stuarty or Murray from the corner kicks and free kicks and that. Every back four, every team we played against were under pressure. I remember, I think it was a game against the Jambos or Hibs at East End Park, and you could see the fear in these players' faces, because up came our two centre halves. You had Smudger, you had Big Evo, you had lads like that, and we were very competitive. We fought for the ball, and now it's interesting seeing teams that are with long throws and all that, and they're being downcried at times. And I went, no. If it's a tool that you've got in your arsenal, why would you not use that to your strength? But we tried to play football. We had Mark Miller was one of the best players I ever played with, and I thought he underachieved. I told Mark that and myself face to face. I said to him, "You've underachieved." I said, if you had my attitude, you could have played for any Scottish Premier League club, to be honest with you. But he was two-footed. He could head a ball, box to box. But I just wish he had worked harder, because it used to frustrate the life out of me, because I saw such a cracking football player. So the team was full of good players, Mikey. There was no surprise that we were successful. And the threat from set plays, from crosses, was always a big part of how we played, and rightly so. It was a big, we had players to do it, so why not do it?
Oh, you've moved into coaching, so just from your point of view, that's kind of been coached out of football now, isn't it, that approach? Because all this Pep Guardiola and passing out from the goalie and across the back four and all this touches of the ball, blah, blah, blah. Why not just be effective, using your winners, using big guys, getting in the box?
Yeah, I actually think it's changing a wee bit, Mikey. I think it is changing. Teams are, I mean, I don't see the sense to the centre-back standing in the 6-yard line, passing it to the goalkeeper, and then the goalkeeper plays it long. And all of a sudden you get two centre-backs standing beside the goalkeeper who are out of the game. The team is, they're 20 yards behind everybody. So I'm not a big fan of it. I want to see. I've been in coaching and management. I've managed clubs for over here in North America, quite a bit, and now I'm the technical director of the Abbotsford Soccer Association, which is a grassroots club. We've got players from U5 all the way through to men and women's teams. So I look after the coaching side of things, I organise the coaches and get them going, and I work with every team in the club at the 11-a-side stuff. So every day is football, and I'm also the colour commentator for the Vancouver Whitecaps on the radio. I've been doing that the last 7 years, so football still very much is a way of life for me. But the type of football, we combined a bit of both. We had players that could play. We had wingers that wanted to be wingers, that wanted to play. There were times when, with Stuart, they would call it the graveyard shift in Murray, where a lot of the work they were doing defensively went unnoticed. But as a player, you appreciate it. As a coach or a manager, you appreciated it. The supporters may not have seen the times where Shirley was tucked in defending, or Murray was tucked in defending. There was, or David Bingham, of course, as well, was a terrific football player for us as well. So it didn't matter who was playing in those areas of the park. Everybody knew their job, Mikey, and did it to the best. It wasn't always silky, but we tried to do the right things. And I thought the supporters bought into. They could see the energy, they could see the attitude of the players trying to do their thing. There were times players maybe played out of position, but still knew what their roles and responsibilities were. And as a coach and a manager, that's all you can ask for.
Definitely. There was a real connection with the players and the supporters back then. I think Burton Dick obviously had a massive part to play in that. I want to touch on Tannadice and then the last game against Airdrie and getting that league title. So what's your memories of the Tannadice trip?
Tannadice, if I recall, the Dundee United side didn't make a lot of changes from being relegated from the Premier League into the First Division at the time. So they were still a genuine Scottish Premier League side, in my opinion. Tannadice, at the best of times, I made my debut for the Jambos at Tannadice, and we lost, I think it was 4-2 that day. So I knew, and you know how difficult it is, the support, they've got great support up at Tannadice. The stadium was packed, absolutely packed. I had my friends and my brother was up at Tannadice that day. And it was one of the best days of my footballing life, Mikey, that day. And the way that we did it, the attitude of the players, everything that was spoken about to this point came out in that performance for me. We went a man down quite early. I think it's Stuart Petrie, it gets sent off, and it just galvanised us again. But I just remember that pocket of Dunfermline supporters and the noise coming out of that stadium. Goosebumps here talking about it again. And it was just fantastic. We were backs to the wall for long spells, of course, but the fighting spirit, everything that we did, we still tried to play. We still tried to do the right things. We knew we needed Big Westy to stand on his head, and he did that. He was terrific, Big Westy. And you knew if he was coming for a cross, he was keeping it. He did a great job. I don't think there was any failures that day. Every player knew what was at stake, and we knew if we got the result that day that it was back home to Airdrie in the last game of the season. But that performance that day summed up for me my short spell at the Dunfermline and what it meant to the players. Big Norrie in the background, he was always there with us for sure, and the supporters. You just said that there was a relationship between the two, the players and the supporters. Goodness me, what a day it was, and proof was in the pudding there how we played.
Definitely, and all the media had basically gave Dundee United the title, hadn't they? Everything was against us.
Yeah.
And we come up trumps, didn't we? We got that 1-0 win up there, and then, like you say, going into the Airdrie game, just had to get over the line.
Yeah, and that was, Airdrie, as you remember, during those days were a nightmare to play against because the amount of big guns that they knocked out of the Scottish Cup, and they were such a horrible team to play against. And I mean that in the best way to the Airdrie. I mean horrible because you knew they had the capabilities at that time. I mean, Big Andy was playing, from Owen Coyle was playing, Sandy Stewart, and all that group of players that played for Airdrie. They were Alec McDonald was the manager during that spell also, and they were just a really, really difficult club to play against. So you knew that was in the background. You knew you had to be good on the day to beat Airdrie. and the pressure of the game was delayed, I think 15 minutes or something like that, to let the crowd in. It was East End Park was bouncing that day. It was wonderful.
We're proud to sponsor this podcast. At Flow Clinic, we are committed to helping more people take control of their health. If you're looking to lose weight safely and effectively, we are helping thousands of patients do just that. No waiting rooms, no fuss. From consultation to delivery straight to your door. All done conveniently and discreetly online. Find out more at flowclinic.com. That's PHLO clinic.com. Flow Clinic, your health in your hands.
We were the better side. That nobody could take that away for us. But we got there in the end. But we knew that we had to keep that level of focus. Dundee United were down at Morton. Capello, not an easy place to play either. So I think they made. Did they draw, Mikey? I'm not sure.
They drew 2-2, I think.
Yeah. 2-2, yeah. So we knew that we'd heard the score because our game kicked off later. We knew what was going on, so we just had to see the game out and get things done. And then the celebrations were fantastic, absolutely fantastic. It was a great time, getting promoted and the circumstances of Norrie's passing and us winning up at Dundee United down to 10 men. You couldn't have scripted it any better for the other than Big Norrie's passing. Obviously, you couldn't have scripted that to be the writing on the wall for us that season. It was great. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
100%. I remember as a supporter being there that day, and like you say, it was weird because we got the shout we were champions. It started going round the stadium, and it was still about 10 minutes to play. It was such a surreal experience, eh?
And we could hear that obviously on the pitch, but you still had to keep your focus. You still had to do the right things because there was still a game of football to be played. But it was a nice sideline hearing that in the background. But the supporters were. I thought the supporters were the difference that season. They followed us to everywhere, and in a lot of cases outnumbered the opposition supporters, and because they could sense something good was happening. They could see a good football team. They were well managed and coached, and they had a group of players that played very well together. And it came out in a lot of different times because we won games right at the end, and that just showed you the fighting spirit that we had right to the death.
Definitely, mate. And what's your memories then of the celebrations and the evening, if you can even remember much?
Yeah, it was great times. It was great times. I mean, just the characters we had in the group was fantastic. And yeah, I can remember going in, but I can't remember coming out, to be honest with you. It was one of those, and rightly so. It was just a great time, great occasion for the club. You know, when you win a cup, you win promotion. These are times that you should celebrate. You know, if you can't celebrate those, there's something wrong with you. And let's just say those lads didn't let anybody down.
Now, I've heard plenty of stories, but we'll keep them away from this podcast. A magical group. So we're in the Premier League, returned to the Premier League. Our first season, we finished 5th.
Yeah.
Got to the League Cup semi-final. What a debut season that must have been for you guys.
It was great. And again, it was the type of football we played. We didn't change from the first division. We went straight in the Scottish Premier League, feared no one. And we had a bash at teams. We were always at threat again, Mikey, from the set plays and things like that. That was a part of our DNA. That was, teams knew that they were playing against Dunfermline. They knew if they had given away a free kick or a corner or something like that, it was a genuine scoring opportunity for us. And the players, we just responded well. There was a lot of Scottish Premier League players in that Dunfermline side, so it was like coming back to the levels that we could all play at, and so there was the experience that was in the team. Sure, we gave some young lads some opportunity. Derek Fleming being one of them was a great wee player. Flea, Bingy got a wee bit more of a run as well. We just had good players, and we got on a wee bit of a run, if I recall, and I mentioned the Hearts and the Hibs games as well, but the Dundee United games as well at home. The East End Park was a bit of a fortress for us. We were good. We weren't great against Rangers and Celtic. I think traditionally they would beat us, but you look at the quality of the those two teams at that time. Goodness me, you look at the Rangers team now and the Celtic team now, there's probably a player, none of those players will get in those teams, to be brutally honest with you.
Yeah, definitely.
It showed you the quality in the Premier League at that time was very, very good. And it was a real credit to everybody, the supporters included, Mikey, that we did as well. And then this finishing sixth the following season, as you said, we weren't far away again, you know, and getting to semi-finals of the Cup. We did that 2 years in a row, if I'm not mistaken.
And
we played Celtic at Ibrox, I think it was.
We did. Yeah.
So
what I liked though back then, Bert and Dick, even against the likes of Old Firm, they wouldn't change how they were going to play. We tried to attack them, and it didn't always go to plan, and we got a few batterings, but they never ever went with the approach that we'll park the bus. It seemed they just, we'll play the usual way, like you say, we'll attack them.
Yeah. And we were always well organised. We were always well organised, well prepared. They went into a lot of detail about the opposition that we played. And but we wanted to play attack-minded football. There was very, very little negativity in the preparation. It was about what we could do, you know. And the gaffer we were, as I say, we were well prepared. We knew the strengths and the weaknesses of the oppositions. But the shape that we went through with Dick and Bert during the week was always first class. We knew exactly what our roles were, who we were playing against, and everybody tried to do that to the best of their ability. So the defensive responsibilities, everybody knew that. Mikey, it wasn't as if somebody will just leave it, somebody else will do it. We weren't that great that we could afford to do that. Everybody had to buy into how we were structured, how we were set up. But then when we attacked, they gave us license to get forward at every opportunity. And part of my role, or Robo's role, was to make sure that we were organised, that we didn't get hit in the break. And so it just made, at that time, things just clicked. And it was a really, really positive environment because we were in every game. Sure, Rangers and Celtic, they pummel us a couple of times, but you know, we go to Celtic Park on the second day of the season and we did really well. It wasn't a fluke that day. We won 2-0 at Celtic Park, which it's not easy to do. It's not easy to do.
That was the following season, yeah.
It was, yeah, absolutely.
Remember it well.
Yeah.
You spoke about all the teammates. What about any dressing room stories? You mentioned Alan Moore. What a character. Like, there must have been some amazing times. Jerry Britton as well, you mentioned. So anything that sticks out?
Well, you just never, the last thing you wanted to do was be going to training, like actually heading down to the training ground, and wee Murray or somebody be injured and be back at the training, back at the stadium with Pip, doing the treatment. Because you never knew if your socks were tied up, if your socks were cut, your shirt was ripped up, or something would have happened at some point, because they were always up to something. And you know, I had a nice car at the time, and the five of us from the west, we'd take turns driving in, and you weren't allowed to eat in the car, so we'd stop and get a sausage roll or something on the way home in the town in Dunfermline. And I'd make the lads stand outside the car. They couldn't get in the car to eat. They were only allowed in. And then wee Murray bought my car off me, and everybody could eat. There was Bridie's, there was that sausage roll and pies getting eaten all the time. I used to cringe just looking at the car. But there was the drive in. There was just stories all the time, and it just kept the dressing room going. You know, there was one. There was one time, oh goodness me, where it was Neil Cooper, who could imitate the gaffer so well. Brilliant. Wee Joe, the kit man. And you know that at East End Park, I don't know what it's like. I haven't been into the stadium for many, many years, Mikey, but there was 2 doors to get into the home dressing room. And so we were playing Rangers that day. So it was 2:00, the manager would start telling the team, and the team talk would start dead on 2:00. So we're sitting in the dressing room, and Big Neil, who was such a character, God rest him, such a character, such a funny guy. He could imitate the gaffer so well. And wee Joe has come in, and it's it's about 2 o'clock and the gaffer's still not in with us in the dressing room. He's having a chat with Walter Smith and Archie Knox and that in the coach's room and stuff. So Tatty gets up, Big Neil gets up, and he starts to do the team talk, and he's imitating the gaffer, and he could do the gaffer better. It was just amazing. So Joe opens the first door and then hears what he thinks is Bert's taking the team talk. So he's saying, geez, oh. So he comes back out and he walks right into the manager's room. And there he is. He's walked right in on, Walter Smith, Archie Knox, and the gaffer and Dick sitting there. And he says, "Oh, geez, I'm sorry." He says, "Gaffer," he says, "I thought you were taking the team talk." And he says, "That'll not be me." He says, "That'll be that B. Cooper." He says, "He does me better than me." It was great, and that just showed you the characters were always prepared to have a laugh for sure, and it was great. And the gaffer had a great sense of humour as well, and we all know about Dick's sense of humour. So everything helped, every part helped.
Superb, mate. Do you remember your first goal for the club? I think it was actually your only goal.
No, I don't actually. No, I don't. Where was that?
A game against Edinburgh City in the Scottish Cup. Finished, I think it was 7-2 to Dunfermline.
Wow.
Not remember that one, no.
Well, that's a new one for me, that's for sure. I didn't. I remember playing for St Johnstone, and Paul Sturrock was the manager. We're playing against Hearts in the cup, and he fined me at half time for not overlapping enough. So the second half, I get forward, I whip in a cross, and we score the equaliser at St Johnstone, and then I get in at the back post and score with a header to beat Hearts, to knock Hearts out of the cup. And I asked the gaffer, I said, "Any chance I get the money back that you fined me at half time?" He said, "No chance. That'll teach you a lesson. You've got to get forward." I wasn't one of these marauding fullbacks, but I enjoyed the defending side of it, and seeing the winger go off. Big Stuart Petrie and I had a rolling bet, if you like, and they said, "How long you give this winger today, wee man?" I said, "He's not bad. I'll give him 70 minutes and that type of thing." And he was amazed how many times the winger got taken off, But it was just a relationship that Stuart and I had between the two of us. We made sure that nobody was getting past us.
Superb, mate. There's a great photo in our archives. I'll need to dig it out, send it to you, when you scored that goal against Edinburgh City. And I think it's Andy Smith and George Shaw, and they're both pointing and laughing at you as if to say, "Can't believe he's actually scored a goal." It's a brilliant photo.
I'm sure we Jordy and Andy, that's exactly what they're doing, because I wasn't. I scored a few goals in my career, but I wasn't a prolific goal scorer. That's for sure.
Superb, mate. One player from that season I want to get your thoughts on: Sergio Duarte. Remember him, the Brazilian boy that came in briefly?
Yes, yeah. You could see that there was a player there, obviously being the Brazilian in him. Yeah, technically was very good, and he actually slowly but surely bought into what we were all about, and it kind of summed up really. Again, it was a reflection on the attacking side of things as well, the type of football that we probably at times didn't get credit for. And because we wouldn't have signed a Brazilian if we were thinking of just scud missiles up the park. But he was another physical presence too, but he could pass the ball. It's a name, while I haven't thought of that name since I left the club, and I'm 61 now. And he made a positive impact. He was a good player, and alongside Mark Miller, I thought the two of them complemented each other. Robo at times was popping into midfield too, but he gave us something. There was a calmness about how he played as well, so that he had a wee bit of the presence on the park that we wanted as well.
Brilliant stuff. And where is he now?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
You played your last game 15th of March 1998. Your last game was against Celtic in a 5-1 defeat. Were you looking to leave the club at that point, or what was going on? What was the dynamics of why you ended up leaving?
Well, I knew that I could still play in the Premier League, Mikey. That's for sure. But I also had the opportunity. There was an altercation between me and another player that happened. I won't go into too many details about it, but fair to say the two of us didn't like each other. And I got the opportunity to go to Ayr United for Dunfermline. I got the chance to go and join Gordon Dalziel and Ian Munro at Ayr United, and joined a very, very good group of players as well. You talk about things that you remember at the time. That you spoke about the Dundee United occasion. There was that time, Ayr United were well, down in the relegation area and well out of it at one point. So they'd signed a few players with a lot of experience. Myself, Andy Walker, John Davies was another one that was down there. Andy Millen was down there as well. And we stayed up. We played Partick Thistle in the last game of the season at Firhill, and they delayed the game 15 minutes. There was about 12,000, 13,000, I believe, at that game. And Ayr United beat Thistle 2-0 that day. It was another special occasion that you just remember. But it was a chance for me to go and play first team football as well. And I knew that things were changing at the club. The dynamics were changing at the club. There was some signings that were made, and the dressing room wasn't quite the same. It wasn't bad by any means, Mikey, but it wasn't quite the same. And I just knew that it was time for me to move on, and I went to another fantastic club. Ayr United were great with me. The owner, Mr. Barr, at the time, and the people, the players that were there, the staff welcomed me, and I did a good job for Ayr United, and I went from Ayr United to becoming the Hamilton manager.
Superb. We'll touch on that. But staying at Dunfermline, you mentioned it there. A lot of the guys I've spoken to seemed around about that same time, 98, the Jerry Brittons, Evo Den Beeman, Derek Fleming, Harry Curran, yourself. A lot of these stalwarts that last couple of seasons seemed to just go, and the whole team changed, didn't it?
Yeah, and you get periods at clubs where that happens. You get periods where you look at, Manchester United is a great example, isn't it? They've tried everything they've spent, who knows, untold millions on trying to develop a team. And now they're starting to show some sort of signs. You look at, even Rangers. It's unrecognisable how poor Rangers have been for a long time, to be honest with you, Mikey. But you look at the Walter Smith era, that group of players that were there. So you go through those situations where players come in, and sometimes they don't get it. Sometimes you could go to any club, any player can move to any club and not be successful. It doesn't always work out. Just because you brought someone in doesn't always guarantee you success in that. And that was the case. You took the lads that you mentioned there, Mikey. Not only did they love the football club, but they were characters. They were good people, and they understood what the playing for Dunfermline was all about. And I think when you sign players, you're hoping that they'll bring that sort of mentality, that sort of character into the club, but it doesn't always work that way. And the gaffer moved on, and Dick was there for a spell, and things changed. Things changed, and that's just football. That's no reflection on anybody. But you bring in players, and those, as I said earlier, the lads that you mentioned, and also the lads that were there, Frenchie and players like that, Big Evo, they were cast in stone Dunfermline players and supporters, and they loved their time there. And it's very, very hard to replicate that. It's very difficult to try and keep that standard. Yeah, I'm not saying that Dunfermline signed bad players by any means. I don't mean it that way. But sometimes things click for you. And during for that nearly 3-year spell that I had with Dunfermline, it clicked for us because a lot of pieces fitted. And the management staff were a huge part of that. Mikey, it's been well documented. But the players also deserved a great deal of credit because we recognised ourselves what we needed to do. If we weren't doing something well, there was enough leaders in that dressing room to make sure we rattled a few cages in there, and so nobody was allowed to have any sort of ego at all. We just understood where we were at, the type of football that we were at, the type of players we were. We understood that we had to do it that way, or we wouldn't be successful, and everybody bought into how Bert and Dick wanted us to do it.
Brilliant, definitely. So on reflection, Dunfermline, 65 appearances, 7 subs. What is your favourite memory from your time at East End Park, if you could pick one, Colin?
Oh, it would have to be the Dundee United game. The Dundee United game was it was a privilege to be a part of that occasion. and it became an occasion. The Dunfermline supporters that day made it an occasion. That pocket of, I don't know what we had that day, was it 2,500 or something? I heard that we had that day, made more noise than the rest of the Dundee United supporters on the occasion. There was people looking over in the corner going, wow, what a racket coming out of there. I could imagine what the night out was like for a lot of those supporters when they got back to Dunfermline. But it was just, it summed up everything about that season, as I said earlier in the conversation, Mikey, where the attitude had to be right. The application going down to 10 men, that had to be right. The organisation that I spoke about earlier, where Bert and Dick had us organised, well drilled, and sometimes we would work against 11, a defending 10, which you have to do as when you prepare your side. It's not every game you play 11v11. There's times where you lose a player, so you have to do that, and that some of that work came into it as well. And it was just the look of the supporters, the noise coming out of that end, the reaction from the players in the dressing room was absolutely fabulous, and to do it with such a great group of men was just a privilege for me.
Great choice, mate. What about kits? Did you have a favourite shirt when you were at Dunfermline? There's quite a few belters during your 3 seasons.
Yeah, no, I actually I really liked the thick black stripe one that we had. I see the one in the background, a wee bit thinner one, but I really liked the think. Was it Azix? What was it?
Avec, yeah. 97 to 99, we had that for 2 seasons.
Yeah, I liked that. I liked that kit. That was a beauty, and I also liked the red and blue one that we had. Which in fact, I have it here in my cupboard. I have one of my jerseys here. But yeah, it was great. But the thick black band, the striped one, that's the one that I preferred.
Superb, good choice. Who's your best pal at the football club?
I had a lot of good acquaintances, that's for sure. A lot of good teammates. But Andy Smith and I spent a lot of time. I would pick Andy up on the way to pick up the gruesome threesome from Glasgow, and in fact there was a few of the lads came from Glasgow. There was almost 2 cars, I think, going at one point. But Big Smudger and I got on. He's just football daft. That's all we spoke about. And it was great. But wee Murray wasn't far behind him. Harry Curran, Jerry Britton, the lads. It was just they were just really good guys, Mikey, and just called a spade a spade. Just they let you know if something was not right. They let you know, and I think that quality and characteristic in people is lacking at times nowadays. But they were just very honest guys that were great to play alongside. Good friends.
Brilliant stuff. Final one.
Tommy Callahan as well. TC was another one that just came to my mind. Tommy Callahan was another one that travelled through, and what a character he was. I keep in touch with Tommy a wee bit through LinkedIn, and the lads are doing well for themselves.
Brilliant. Talk about good guys. Final one on this part. Bert Payton.
Well, he was the reason that, or the main reason I'd say, along with Dick, the two of them were thick as thieves and terrific. But what I liked about the gaffer was, again, he'd let you have it. He would tell you exactly what he wanted you to do. Didn't complicate things at all. Understood the opposition very well, and what was required. And he loved his players. He loved the club, and that oozed out of both him and Dick. They were so passionate every day. They cared about what they were doing. They cared about the players. They were always approachable. The gaffer, he was really good with me. He knew that I'd miss a few games with the national team as well, but I was always welcome back, because I missed a few games because of playing for Canada. I'd missed 2 or 3 games at a time during spells in the Premier League. But he understood that, and he knew how much playing for Canada meant for me, or meant to me, I should say, Mikey. But as soon as I got the call, as soon as Jim Jeffries let me know that it was Dunfermline that were very interested in me, there was absolutely no hesitation at all. I couldn't wait to speak to them both.
Great stuff, mate. Touching on Canada then, international career, 63 cap, 5 goals. You mentioned you made your debut against Scotland back in 1983. What was it like playing for your country then, playing for Canada? What a great experience it must have been.
Well, you know what I did, Mikey? I treated it the way Scottish players play for Scotland, how they feel. That's the pride that I took playing for Canada, because it took a lot of work to get to playing for the national team. The lads used to give me stick at Dunfermline saying, "Yeah, if you buy a Molson Canadian, you get a cap. Or if you got a checkered shirt, you get a cap." And I say, well, I used to give them a bit of stick, saying, "Listen, lads, we've got to prepare in Florida for the next 3 or 4 days, and it was the middle of or something like that." And I said, "I'm not sure whether to put flip flops on or just a wee thong sandal type thing when I'm walking about in my shorts." And then you could imagine the stick that I would get. But I gave as good as I got all the time. But it was a real privilege, to play for Canada. I captained them on 38 occasions. I was the interim national team coach on 10 occasions as well. It was great. I mean, with some wonderful games. I mean, playing in Azteca Stadium, 130,000 people. Not many people get to do that. You know, playing against Brazil. You know, just before they won the World Cup in the US, with Dunga, Rai, Bebeto, Romario, all those players, and we drew 1 each against them. You know, there were just some great occasions, some unbelievable experiences. Almost getting killed in Honduras, coming out of the stadium in a yellow school bus, getting the bus belted with bricks and bottles and everything getting thrown at you. Army officers with machine guns, one at the front of the bus and one lying down. He was that scared, cuddling his rifle at the back of the bus. As we're coming through, we'd drawn 2 each with Honduras at that time in Tegucigalpa. It was amazing. Some unbelievable experiences.
Superb. Did you ever swap shirts with any of these guys from Brazil?
Yes.
Or the likes?
Oh, yeah, I've got some cracking jerseys. Lothar Matthäus' jersey as well. Funny you mentioned Scotland. I played against Scotland twice, and I had Gordon Strachan's jersey. Was the first one I swapped, and then the second one was Ali McCoist's. So I've got 2 ex-Old Firm managers and 2 Scottish legends, of course. I've got their jerseys. There's a few other ones. Yeah, my memory escapes me. A big Danish one as well. Mexican Ambreets and stuff. So yeah, lots. I've given a few away, of course, but my son always pesters me about trying to get the McCoy's one, but I'm not giving that one away yet. That's for sure. I need to wait for that one.
Superb. Were you a player who kept memorabilia throughout your career, or were you one of these guys that just you weren't really fussed?
Believe it or not, Mikey, I still have a box from when we came back to Canada in 2000 that I haven't opened. I haven't opened it, and it's Scottish football stuff. So I don't know what's in there. There was another box that I opened up, and it actually had the First Division Championship medal that was there for the Pars, and also a Reserve League medal that I won with Rangers. So there is little bits and pieces that I need to open that box up. There's a lot of programs and a lot of articles I was very fortunate. I got a lot of publicity when I was playing in Scotland because of the national team involvement with Canada. It was a different story for a few people. So I was very fortunate to get a lot of TV and radio and newspaper stuff done with me. And to this day, I still enjoy doing the TV and the radio out here.
Superb, mate. Right, I just want to test your memory before we wrap this one up. So in the 95-96 Dunfermline programme, they used to do interviews with players, if you can remember. So they used to ask questions such as your favourite drink or TV show. So I'm going to test your memory here.
Wow.
So what did you say was your favourite TV show back in 95? Can you remember?
I wonder if it was Dallas. Was it Dallas?
It wasn't.
No.
Top Gear.
Top Gear. Yeah, that was my second one I was going to say. Yeah, I love cars, I must admit, so Top Gear would have been there.
There you go. Boyhood hero. Who did you say was your boyhood hero?
Gone a blank there.
John Gregg. You put
John
down
Gregg.
for that one.
Wow.
Yeah. Who was your favourite actor?
Oh my goodness me.
Testing you here.
This is a tell you, man. Favourite actor at that time? Clint Eastwood.
It was. Well
Was it?
done.
There you are.
Superb.
Yeah.
And last one. The most famous person you would have liked to have met back in 1995.
Wow. No, go on then. Refresh my memory.
Princess Diana, apparently.
Miss Diana. There you are. Yeah,
There you go.
I actually had lunch with the Queen and Prince Philip in Victoria. I was nominated for Athlete of the Year in BC many years ago, Mikey. Mind you, there were 700 other people there at the luncheon, but that was quite a privilege that day as well. But yeah, Princess Diana. Yeah, she was wonderful. Yeah.
Perfect. Right, last question, mate. What does Dunfermline Athletic mean to Colin Miller?
Oh, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. In fact, my brother Dal works with a couple of Heart supporters and some Dunfermline supporters as well at Edinburgh Airport, and what they speak, like what you're talking about, Mikey. They sound like they're about the similar age, and look at that group of players, that time, that era, as being they loved coming to watch Dunfermline, and it meant the world to me. Well, as a football player, you want to be wanted at a football club. You want the manager to want you and the staff and be accepted with the players. It's very, very important for a player to receive that welcome. And from the day I walked in the door at Dunfermline to the day I left, I knew that I was an important part of what the club was doing, and I was a part of a very successful group, a very successful time in the club's era. It was, and I'm going to say it was a privilege to play for Dunfermline Athletic. I desperately want to get back and get to East End Park and come to a game. I want to do that, Mikey. It's on my wish list, to be honest with you, to come back to East End Park, because so many great memories, so many great nights under the lights there, and bucketing down with rain or whatever, freezing cold, whatever it was. I remember the tarp going over the pitch to try and get it warmed up so we could play on a Saturday, and everybody looking out, wondering how the game would be on. Just daft little things like that meant the world to me as a person. It was a great time for my family as well, my wife, and we were very, very happy at the time and in fact we had another quick story. It was with the five of us where I'm thinking about the daughter, my daughter Sarah, when she was born. I was playing, I think we were playing Dundee United. I think it was a cup game, midweek. It was a midweek game. And Maria, my wife, was pregnant. She was ready to have the baby, and there was a bit of a false alarm the morning of the game, and the doctor said that nothing will happen for at least 24 hours. So I let the gaffer know that everything was okay. I came and played the game. We won, and I was in the shower, and I think it was Pip Yates come running through. He said, "Wee man," he says, "she's into labour. You better hurry up." So the five of us jumped into this car, dropped the lads off, and I'm not a fast driver. The lads would slaughter you. I was like driving Miss Daisy with me as the driver. The lads used to give me stick all the time, but I made it just in time. I still had my Dunfermline suit on when Sarah was born, but it was it just meant everything to me at the time. It was a real good time for Colin Miller as a football player, and hopefully I played a wee part in the success of Dunfermline Athletic.
No question, mate. It was a privilege watching you as a supporter, and hopefully we see you back at East End someday soon, because we look forward to you coming back. It'd be brilliant to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll keep in touch, Mikey. It is in my wish list to get back and get to a few games during maybe not this season, obviously, but in the future, I'd love to do that, and we'll keep in touch.
Thanks for listening to Walking Down the Holbeath Road, and a big thank you to our latest guest, Colin Miller, for sharing his stories and insights with you, our listeners. Don't forget to subscribe to Walking Down the Holbeath Road on your favourite podcast platform. This podcast was produced by Jan Milkiewicz and music supplied by Stuart Dusty Miller. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to walking down the Holbeath Road once again next month.